I have 100 days to create an Eldritch factory in Minecraft using the NEEP Meat mod. That's right, baby. No electricity, no cogs, no belts, just flesh, blood, and meat. The machines are alive, the world beyond is calling, and baby, you can make an iron farm. This is by far one of the best theme mods I've ever played, and over the next 100 days, descend with me into madness as we explore what is truly possible with meat.
There we go. On behalf of the Northeast Electric and Petrochemical Company, I've been sent to perform a series of experiments regarding some of their more eclectic designs. In lieu of any form of modern technology or even pen and paper, I've been instructed to record my findings only on this tape recorder. What am I even doing? No one is going to be hearing this. Every resource I've been given is cult fanaticism at best. How anyone got the funding to approve this field research is beyond me. But funded it is, so I shall do my job to the best of my abilities. For as long as there's even a job to do, I suppose.
Ah, here we are. A fresh world untouched by the divine. And it won't be touched for a while. This might be Eldritch Minecraft, but it's still Minecraft, and we need to punch trees. And make ourselves a little base of operations and all that juicy early game chaff. We're also going to need some iron. In fact, iron is going to be a reoccurring issue this entire video, so we best get started now. And as we all know, iron loves to spawn high up in mountains, so up we go, and down we come. Okay, so maybe not the most impressive to die on day 0, but hey, this isn't hardcore, and it's nothing that spending a day chopping trees and making ladders can't rectify. And I take my time gathering up enough iron to get fully kitted out for the mines. We're looking for an integrator's egg, and in the version that I'm playing right now, it can only be found as dungeon loot. And after a little bit of animal harvesting and wheat seed acquisition, we are very ready. By day 2, the quest for the egg begins. Down in the depths we go, finding iron, asbestos, and numerous near-death experiences, but no eggs. Which presents an issue, as I pretty much can't do anything with this mod until I find the egg. Now, in later versions, the dev added an amazing way to summon one in, but this video took a long time to record, so I'm still in a really early version. Thusly, an expedition must begin to find new lands and new structures. For some reason, I get it in my head that a village is the likely place to find the angel's egg, which I'm pretty sure you just can't find them there. However, this must have been some form of divine intervention, as I do spot Veracus Stone, an infinite, if not slow, form of power. It looks like we have ourselves a perfect little base location once we're in possession of an egg. The transient ichor these things leak is our power source. But on day 4, I hear the telltale signs of a mob wearing a backpack beneath me, and I'm pretty sure those can contain dungeon loot, so it actually is worth a shot. And hey, whether it's luck or the flesh blessing me, there's an egg! I mean, I might as well explore around the cave system for a little bit longer, see what else I can loot. We get our first zombie brain, a very important crafting resource, and even find ourselves a dungeon, but it doesn't have any eggs in it, which is too bad, as having a second one is going to be helpful. In any case, I think it's high time we head home and begin the great work. The egg needs blood. Lots of it. I don't quite remember how to extract blood from mobs, but thankfully NEEP Meat has a lovely guide in the form of a projector that beams the information directly into my retinas. I'd imagine this is perfectly healthy long term. We'll need a tool called a tissue operator and a drain to collect the blood. And I need to coax a mob onto the drain and process them into a quarter of a bucket of blood, which turns out to be way more difficult than I thought. I try using boats, that doesn't work, and it takes me so long to try to collect blood that the sun begins to set, and I figure if it's going to be this hard to imbibe the egg, I might as well just move to the permanent base spot before trying to figure it all out. The move does go very smoothly, and I even take some time to organize my chests. I must really be possessed by some eldritch entity because I literally never do this. And then, off I go, continuing to fail to collect any meaningful amount of blood, which is getting a little embarrassing at this point. So, what if I make a fluid tank so that we can carry partial buckets of blood, as animals seem somewhat sparse around here? Okay, get on the drain. And, come on! No one told me communing with the fleshy divine was going to be this hard. Or I just suck at it, but who can say? Well, eventually I finally lock in and cut up 2 sheeps and 2 cows to get the bucket of blood I need to finally become a father. Just gotta pump it into the egg and watch as it pulses and eventually hatches. The great integrator has come to share its secrets with me, and the work can finally begin.
Well, I managed to do it. Prove some of this whack job conspiracy that I've been given. I have to wonder if this is what they intended, this thing that I have hatched, this integrator. It stares at me, regarding me with as much curiosity, uncertainty, and fascination as I regard it. I think, at least. I can say this is no mere animal. But again, I wonder. Did they know this was already here? Did they know that it needed blood? It's unlikely. Any of the resources I've been given support no indication of real research occurring. I suppose it's why they sent me out here.
I'd like to make our first farm using our new wormy friend here, but I'll need to upgrade a composter into a charnel compactor. If we place the compactor next to the integrator and feed it meat, it'll produce a capsule of integration fluid, a slurry of still living flesh. Delightful! These are the gateway to many things, but we're out of rotten flesh, which is going to be a key component of ours, so off we go zombie hunting. I dig nice and deep into the world and find a staggering lack of zombies, a spider dungeon with no rotten flesh in the chests, and a large amount of lava. That said, I do find some diamonds, and I guess if I can't hunt rotten flesh in the overworld, then maybe in the nether? I mean, is it a bad idea to try to farm zombie piglin for flesh? Yes. Am I looking for an excuse not to? Absolutely. And does the divine reward its loyal subject? Of course! Because while making the portal, a thunderstorm starts and spawns loads of nice flesh pinatas for me to harvest. Woohoo! Another day avoiding the nether. Now that I have more flesh to my name, I can fuse it with integration fluid and copper to make biomechanical components that can power our first motor. And now we can use the Veracus rocks as we feed their secretions directly to the motor. Our first machine will be a crusher that we can use to rip up flesh into little tiny meat chunks. With all that, the last thing I need to make our first automated farm is an awakened brain. See, our integrator doesn't just sit there and look pretty and make us integration fluid. It collects the secrets of the universe within itself, and using data cables and a pedestal, we can enlighten certain objects. Like this brain, which it gives 10,000% more eyes. Hooray! And that allows us to stitch together our meat bits and other components into a scuttler. This little flesh lump is actually an automated crop farm for us. We can test it out with some bone meal and... oh my god, she's so cute. I will name her Issa, and she will be my friend forever. And she'll help us farming Eldritch wheat and potatoes. Yeah, crops are hugely important for this mod, and thankfully we can immediately make some whisper wheat by enlightening some wheat seeds, but we're going to need potatoes to make their glandular versions. Well, when you need potatoes, you look for a village. Or a shipwreck, because that's what I found, and it was loaded with starchy goodness. And while heading back, I spotted a huge vein of asbestos, which is super lucky as we're going to need it for, like normal reasons. Like, I'm not gonna put it in your cereal. They'd know it was me. It wouldn't benefit me. Well, after spending an entire day mining asbestos, very good for your lungs, I head home and get to enlightening some potatoes into their divine form, and then get them planted down for Issa to start harvesting. In the morning, I finish up Issa's farm for now, and I should probably explain what I'm trying to do here. I want to get into some Eldritch ore processing, and the first step to that is creepy plants. We're also going to need some meat steel, a powerful and fleshy alloy used for most of the machines in this mod. In order to make the alloy, we're going to want an alloy furnace, which is where our asbestos kicks in. Refractory bricks are made from asbestos and clay, and with them, we can cobble together a nice alloy furnace. We'll need meat bricks, and there's 2 ways to craft those, but the only one accessible to us right now is forming 9 meat scraps into a brick. So flesh goes in the grinder, bits come out, and then we squish those into a juicy, juicy brick, and alloy it with iron. Meat steel. Entirely scientific. But this is very inefficient, and I'd like to pursue a more permanent meat farm via automatic animal processing. But we're gonna need a lot of resources to do so, including an ender pearl, so it looks like tonight we steal we're gonna fight endermen. And then we don't get exploded by creepers twice because I was listening to Chaperone way too loud and couldn't hear them. It doesn't happen. And for an entire night of work, we get 1 ender pearl. Yay. But on the bright side, Issa's been very busy and she's netted us our first whisper wheat. We'll be using that later. For now, I figure that machines can actually directly output into storages, which is awesome, so we can use our ender pearl to make a control unit, but our iron supply is completely exhausted, so it is again time to hit the mines. And then leave very quickly because I forgot torches, but I did actually nab a little handful of iron, so maybe that'll carry us over for a bit. And also, Issa seems stuck on her chest. Let me just scooch her up and, oh, no, I think she just wants to be there. Okay. Well, the iron's done, and I can make a mincer. It'll turn animals into tissue slurry, which we can process into liquid meat using a trommel. And that requires a lot of iron. Well, no point in mining for iron with no enchant, so off to the nether for quartz grinding. And ooh, you know what? I actually bet killing zombie piglins is a great way of getting XP. And dying. Okay. Wow. Over the next few days, I continued to quartz mine until I was level 32 and left the nether on day 17, where it hit me that I don't have an enchanting setup. So then I spend the next 2 days looking for cows, culling the bovine population, and even finding a village that doesn't have any books. These guys need to learn how to read or something, but by day 19, I am back home and finally ready to enchant, save for the fact that I don't actually have a diamond pickaxe to enchant, or any diamonds to... Okay, so on day 20, I excruciatingly find 3 single ore block diamond veins to come home, make a pick, cross my fingers, and whoa! Actually, perfect enchant. You gotta love that, no two ways about it. And also, Issa's stuck again. Do you want a barrel, honey? Would you prefer a barrel? But finally, on day 21, I can actually hit the mines and actually go ahead with Fortune 3 and actually dig out a nice stack and a half of iron ore. And once we have ore processing up and running, I'll be able to get even more ore out of it. We're going to need a handful of machines to do this, and now we even get to use our whisper wheat and glandular potatoes. The whisper wheat needs to be crushed, but the taters are going to be used as is. We get to alloy the whisper wheat flour with copper to make whispering brass, and that we can use to make a hydraulic press. And we're also going to need a pressing basin and a trommel. We should now be able to get on cracking with ores, baby. First up, a hydraulic press over a pressing basin and a trommel outputting its fluid into the pressing basin. And next up, a major distraction in the form of a creeper wearing a backpack. And once that distraction's over, it's time to give the trommel a motor. So we're going to need to divert the flow of transient ichor to the ore processing area. That'll split the available power across our now 2 connected motors, but alas, that is the cost of progress. And I also realize we're going to need a mixer machine as well, and that what I'm doing is very visually ugly, so with a little touch of aesthetic reworking, boom! Now the mixer needs a supply of water and glandular potatoes, and I don't mind inserting the potatoes as needed, but the water we can do easily automatically. A drain placed under an infinite water source will constantly suck the water up into it, and of course in my design I forget that there's a water flow mechanic to fluids in this mod. Most fluids, unless being actively pumped, will only flow downwards, as they are prone to doing in real life. So I slap on a pump and watch as the water flows from the basin into the pump and not into the mixer. Huh? Okay, hold on. Pause for the struggle bus. Lots of cool new swanky mechanics means DJojo has no idea what's going on. Got it! The pump was working perfectly. It was the item pipes I had wrong. We need an ejector to pump items through item pipes. Machines in this mod won't accept any inputs unless they're accepting an entire recipe. Now we can mix water and potatoes and do Eldritch enzymes, which can digest raw ores into slurry. Awesome. Neat. Brag about ore digestion to your friends. Last few things we need is a rendering basin to hold the Eldritch enzymes and ore, and a fat collector to suck up that nice earthy sludge. We can fill the basin with Eldritch enzymes and drop in raw ores to be made into dirty ore fats. These can be pressed automatically, but instead, if we clean them up inside of a trommel, they'll come out as clean ore fats and give us a better yield. All we have to do now is operate the hydraulic press, which works when water flows into one end and is pumped out of another. Actually, it's pretty cool. Now our ore is getting digested, cleaned, and pressed into ingots automatically, and we don't even have to smelt them. And the more power we feed our machines, the faster the ore processing is going to work.
Work regarding the harnessing of the integrator's capabilities and a potential new power source are progressing, actually, very quickly and gracefully. I have no doubts anymore that by the end of my tenure here, I will have assisted NEEP in completely changing the world. Nevertheless, doubt finds itself at home in my dreams. I would be remiss to allow such a provincial concern as creepiness to stop me from doing my job. The integrator won't stop watching me while I work. It stares at me, always watching. What is it looking for? Some days I find myself awake in my bed at strange hours of the day or night without any recollection of how I got in there, and even sweetly tucked into the covers, no less. I don't know, perhaps I should, No. This work will change the world. And I will be a part of it. It must continue.
Meat and blood. Meat and blood, baby. We need them. Both are vital resources to continuing our Eldritch factory, and weirdly enough, only one comes from animals. But animals we will need, so thankfully a wandering trader kindly delivers us some leads to use in herding animals. The plan is to make a meat farm from cows, but there's a special way we can breed them using blood, so let's chase down some nice ooey gooey trees. That's right, baby. With a dip in the nether for a crimson fungus, our wonderful integrator here can bring out its enlightened bloody form. A blood bubble sapling, which grows into a brilliant fleshy tree that drips blood and has veins running through its logs, and whose fruit is a sack of membranous blood. Just add water and ba-bam! Real life blood from trees. Yay! Less exciting, though, is our lack of meat steel, which hopefully won't be an issue for too long, but for now, meat bricks are a premium. But making meat steel, let alone meat bricks, is taxing, as I have to move machines around to divert power here and there. We're running very low on energy for where we are in the mod. I think we need a more potent energy system. Should be our next goal. For now, though, I need to hunt down more zombies, as we ran out of rotten flesh again, and Papa needs his meat bricks. On day 29, I get experimenting. If I make something called a chrono separator and pen up some animals and put the separator in between them, it should separate out adult and baby animals into, we'll call them designated zones for processing. And ooh yes, I seem to understand exactly how this works. So the time has come for some amazing leaps forward in progression. First up, it's time to build 2 chambers. One will hold our breeding mobs, and the other is the processing zone. I'm pretty sure llamas give more meat than cows, so I'm gonna try to use them. And with wandering trader leads, it's not too hard at all to move a few llamas into the bone zone. As far as actually breeding the llamas, we can do it automatically and very quickly using a feeding trough. If placed close enough to animals and given grain, it'll fill with animal feed and force nearby animals to breed really fast. From this point on, though, to complete the meat farm, we're going to need more power than we've got. A mincer apparently has a minimum requirement that we have to meet of 100 joules. So the time has come to detour into expanding our supply of transient ichor. And if you guessed that we were going to use horrible bloody flowers, then you'd be suspiciously correct. It's flower power time, because we're going to be making the power flower, which is the powerhouse of the flower factory. Powerhouse at the factory. In order to make a power flower, we need an advanced crafting a station, I guess, called the PLC. And of course, that means we need more ender pearls. By day 31, I've got 3 control units in hand, so of course I blow one on making AR goggles that will help me see the unseen, but it doesn't seem like there's much unseen to be seeing, so they don't really let me see anything right now. Well, for the PLC, we'll need a bunch of meat steel, and we're out, so back to meat hunting. Is what I would say if I was still a bottom feeder. Now I can just force breed up a ton of cows and shred them into bits! Of course, that's a double-edged sword, as now I have so much meat to grind that I need to disconnect power from ore processing to divert it to the crusher to really speed things up. And in order to speed up the process of breeding the cows, we can attach a motor to the feeding trough in order to hasten its effects. Still, a looting enchantment would really speed up a ton of stuff, so let's go mob hunting. Rip and tear until it is done. Oh, ooh. Shoot. Well, level 29 to level 12 in just one night. It's pretty impressive, honestly. Yeah, okay, so no looting for me. So in order to feel better, I begin to expand Issa's farm to industrial sizes. We'll need the excess crops and... Oh, and hey, another lead delivery. It's too bad villagers don't drop meat. They'd be so much more useful. With Issa's farm completely expanded, I've replaced all of her crops with their nice divine forms. And anyways, I think Issa, prefers it that way. And just look at her go. Okay, coping at very important projects over. Let's get back to making our PLC. When I said it was a crafting station, I wasn't technically lying. You do use it to craft, but really, it's a house for a little meat bulb that actually does the crafting. What a cutie. And even cuter is that you can assume cognitive control over it to force it to perform crafting tasks, which I'm pretty sure is very, very safe for your brain. To actually craft with it, we're going to need a workbench to start on, and a display plate looks good, and it works. Then we'll need storages for all the items and fluids we're going to craft with. Chests and tanks are going to work perfectly. And power flower seeds do require something called integration fluid, which we have to extract from the integration capsules using liquid meat and blood, so we've got ourselves a small chore. First off, we can make some blood inside of a mixer with our blood bubble fruits and water. And now let's head to the unfinished meat farm and... Oh. Trader llamas despawn? I didn't actually know that. Okay, alright, we're going to replace them with cows. With cows now rightfully in place in the breeding chamber, I'll fill the trough and set the chrono separator to always leave behind 4 adult animals, so we've got 2 breeding pairs at all times. But to power the mixer and mince up the cows, we need 100 joules per tick, which we can't really do, more so because I don't have enough iron to make enough pipes to fuel a motor from this distance, and I'm not moving the cows again, so it's off to the iron mines again. Thankfully, though, the divine blesses us once more, and we find one of those iron mega veins and making out like thieves. And after kicking the ore processor back on, we get some iron a-going. And after a quick checkup on Issa, I'm happy. Good girl, Issa. After spending some time with the best girl, we can use our new iron farm to load more pipes and juice that mincer up. Now the separator will pull out adult cows, once there's 5 or more, right into the mincer, which will devour them with its maw and collect their delicious tissue slurry. All we have to do now is run the slurry through a trommel to get nice pure meat, and even a chance at some assorted biological solids which we can crush into bone meal. Lucky! Now that we've got blood and meat, we can mix those together with an integration capsule and come away with pure integration fluid. With over a bucket of the good stuff, we should be able to make our PLC creature craft up some power flower seeds. And wow, it took a whole bucket of integration fluid, even though the recipe didn't even specify an amount. Greedy? Well, it doesn't matter now, as we can plant our new wonderful seeds into the dirt, and in a few short moments they'll bloom into our resplendent new power source. The power flower will make a small amount of transient ichor per solar panel looking growth that it has when it's fed with water, and we can even grow it more using bone meal. The more flour, the more power, and all of it runs off of water. Though if we want to, we can even feed it food to make it produce even more. Each regular growth makes it digest faster and produce even more energy. But there is a larger enhancement that we can make to our power system, even more than the power flower. As of now, we've been using the transient ichor raw, but a better way to do it is to create a synthetic heart and use the ichor to power said heart, which will beat an endless amount of divine blood through our advanced motors. Yes, indeed, it's time to take this from my factory to a living organism. But we're dead out of copper, and if you don't have copper in your heart, do you really have a heart? I didn't think so. So off again to the mines for that sweet, sweet coppery goodness. And in order to speed up the ore processing time, I give our flour some animal feed to boost its production by quite a lot. Once our ore fats are turned into nice clean copper, it's time we make an amazing machine, the heart machine. We get a 50% efficiency boost from our heart machine, so we now have 900 joules of power in our system. But a heart alone does not a vascular system make. We need veins, vascular conduits to move blood around, and advanced motors that imbibe blood in order to spin. It's perfect. With our juicy new upgrades out of the way, it's time to get our meat processing plant hooked up to motors for fully automatic and pure meat processing. We also get another shipment of leads and spend some time moving cows around just for fun. But when the time comes, well, the building itch begins to scratch at me. So over the next 5 days or so, I spend my time making a few small farms for rusty metal blocks of which to build a ruined power plant and ore processing rig out of. I wanted the ore processing machine to look like a mini offshore rig since it needs to suck up water, and there's something about that which makes me think of like a metal refining factory. In the end, I actually think it looks pretty cool in a cluttered way. And for the power station, I wanted to tell a little story of our power flower growing out of control and breaking through the walls of its enclosure, causing a massive collapse. I think in the end it looks okay. But after 5 days, the itch does begin to fade, and the need to automate and progress, it returns in very full form.
I was right. This will change the world. I've discovered a near infinite source of mechanical power. Though my attempts at containing it have been arduous, I think I've managed to... Oh, God! They seem to be unarmed, I think. More importantly, so is the power source. I suppose containment seems to be somewhat in vain. Fine. If it wants to be free, then I suppose I'll let it be free. Yes.
With meat, blood, and power all flowing like, well, meat, blood, and power, I guess, it's time we get some nice, tasty integration fluid going as well. We'll need it for crafts and complex machines alike. So naturally, I want to move everything around in the meat processing part, but first off, we'll need some meat steel for motors, so it's briefly back to grinding up meat chunks. I can also steal some motors from our ore processing to speed things up for now. And saving a cow-related explosive force, the meat plant is back to being quite operational. And coming up to day 50, halfway through the challenge, I start rooting around our liquid meat. I want to store half for processing into meat bricks via hydraulic press, and the other half for storage and processing into food or integration fluid. JEI seems to suggest that there are 2 ways to make integration fluid, one in a mixer using the cartridges, and one in a giant stomach using the raw fluid. So the stomach seems better, but I have no idea how it works. And long story short, even as I write this script, I never do find out how to use the stomach to make the integration fluid, but I sure do waste 2 days trying. So instead, I pivot to using the mixer method. Meat is automatic and infinite, blood is easy to get in large quantities, so the only real cost is the integration capsules. We'll need to fully automate this at some point, but for now, this works fine. Especially because we can finally make more vascular conduits. I've been crazy limited on space with only the few that I've made so far. And after a little bit of PLC action, we're finally actually using the power station that I built earlier to route cables out of. But if we've got the power cables, then why not juice them up to the nines, man? Let's fuel our factory with meat, baby! That stomach we made earlier wasn't a total fail. We can add metabolizers to it in order for it to digest food to produce vascular power. And we can actually cook meat bricks into a very high value food item. And then using a small mincer, we can turn any food into liquid food, full of nutrients and very convenient too. I don't have the iron to show off the power of this in a metabolizer, but we can feed it to our power flour to triple its output from about 900 joules to 2.4k joules. And metabolizers will take this even further. Yeah, meat is gonna pave the way, man. So that means it's back to the mines where we'll be extracting as much iron as possible. And after about 4 days of spelunking, we have so much ore that I shut off the meat plant to route more power into ore processing to give that thing a kick. In the meantime, I go ahead and repurpose our meat farm entirely into a meat brick cooking station, as it's likely to only be used for power and integration fluid now. Now we can make a heart machine and transmute that into a metabolizer to use with the stomach. We'll just pop it on top, run some cables from it, and feed the stomach tasty, tasty meat brick slurry, and blammo! It's making a little over 500 joules of power. But here's the thing. We can add as many metabolizers as we want, and each one only slightly increases the speed of digestion. So this thing is crazy, crazy, crazy efficient. So, more heart machines, more metabolizers, more meat, more power! But we can't celebrate too early yet, as animal feed isn't fully automated. And without feed, we don't get meat, and without meat, we don't get nothing, and with nothing, the divine would surely be disappointed in me, and I don't want to find out what would happen in that case. But thankfully, Issa's farm has just what we need to make tons and tons of feed. Whispering wheat, baby. The next 2 days are dedicated to setting up the animal feed processor, which mostly consists of me wondering why my mixers won't take in fluids and realizing, in all cases, it's a lack of pumps. It is, and it always has been, a lack of pumps. I've set it up so that the system is semi-automatic with blood. We can input blood bubbles whenever and keep it fueled. But Issa's farm will make most of the automation here anyways, especially as blood is only a temporary solution. We need to set up a system to stop her farm from overfilling though, so I utilize some filters and the prioritization mechanics of item pipes to create a small system that will separate wheat and potatoes and trash any seeds or overfill. It's nice, it's clever, and it lets us route tasty, tasty wheat into the animal farm. I've noticed that the PLC seems to take up to a bucket. As in, if there's less than a bucket of fluid in a tank that it's crafting with, it'll still use it. But if there's more than a bucket, it only takes a bucket. So what if I use a fluid regulator to put only a tiny, little baby amount of integration fluid into a tank? Will it still work? Oh my god, it does! Oh goodness, that's going to extend our supply by crafting for, actually, well, by thousands. Thousands and thousands! Wahoo and yippee! And in order to celebrate, I will chop down some of our blood orchard. I mean, we gotta trim the blood orchard trees, right? We're gonna have this thing automatic soon, especially because blood is about to become in very high demand, but for now, it's manual. And hey, I wonder if a Fortune 3 hoe works on blood bubble leaves like it does regular ones. Let's grind some XP in the nether, and, why do I even try? Is there like an XP farm that I can make? I mean, technically, yes, there is, but it's kind of out of the scope for this video, so I guess if you want to see more of this mod, you'll have to like and subscribe and, you know, comment down below. You have to. Do it. Well, what's the best way to cope with lost levels? It's more meat. The answer is always going to be more meat. And it turns out camels are just full of meat. Like literally, they turn into 2 buckets of tissue slurry when minced up, which is the maximum amount that the mincer machine can hold. It's perfect. I recall seeing a camel at a village I visited way earlier, and I make sure to bring a saddle. The plan is to saddle up the camel I already know about and go search for another. And hey, lucky us, it actually doesn't take long at all for us to find a second. So with the breeding pair, we're ready for maximum meat attainment. Well, not ready just yet. First is the mind-numbingly terrible task of carting these things around. And my god, for a mount, they suck. They can't go through trees or across water. I end up just boating them around on leads, the stupid things. By the time I get them back home and pen them up, another of their quirks becomes apparent. They won't breed if they're sitting down. So I somehow need to find a way to keep them standing, and because of my Minecraft genius brain, pretty much instantly I just figure out if you dump them in water, it's water. So I'll waterboard these desert animals for eternity, and they'll never be able to sit, and they'll always be able to breed. I love the smell of profit. And if we're gonna continue to profit, then it's time to refit the meat plant for such large animals. Bigger pen, bigger grinding zone, and bigger everything. And by day 69, we've got the camels locked and loaded. They're definitely very finicky to work with, and it'll definitely take me some days longer of struggling with the farm, but even in its infant form, we get a few delectable dromedaries to donate their fleshy goodness to the factory.
I find myself wondering more about this integrator. It seems to be the gateway between our raw resources and something or somewhere else. And at first I could feel its confusion, see it in its many eyes. But I find as my research progresses and I mold the world around me to use meat, it seems to become more comfortable. I wonder, does it only enlighten objects out of a base instinct, or perhaps does it do so because it's an alien in a land that's not its home, and it's trying to find some semblance of it? Well, if so, its home must be a mighty place. With just this sliver of it, I've solved so many of humanity's issues. If this home does exist, I sure would love to see it someday.
Oh, camel outbreak. Yeah, okay, well, get used to seeing camels around for a while. They have a tendency to glitch out of the pen and then hang around the feeding trough and then breed all over my machines. It's extremely annoying. So as revenge, and for efficiency, now that we just have literally so much meat, I replaced the blood on the animal feed with meat, as it works just as well. Now the camels can live long and happy eating their own children. Jeez, that's dark even for me. Well, speaking of animal feed, we're maxed out on food slurry. Like, we have 72 buckets of it in reserve maxed out. So let's add some more metabolizers to the stack, shall we? And I'm pretty sure there's a way to program the PLC machine to do our tasks automatically. And I used to be a programmer, so this should be... Okay. Look, if this wasn't a 100 days challenge, I'd spend so much longer on this, but as is, I could probably sink a few 100 days of learning into this and not come out on top. So I'm just gonna craft them until the cows come home and whisper their eldritch godless secrets to us. And lo, the divine tower of tummy grows, and we're still maxing out on food. But we're once again limited by our hard lack of metals, so the natural next step is automating them. Because why stop at meat and blood when you can make infinite gems and metals? Probably because getting an ore farm up is actually pretty involved, but that's nothing that some insanity-driven chutzpah can't solve. Though we're full up on meat, and I'd hate to be wasting efficiency. So I'll add another press to the meat line to get some reserve meat bricks going. These lovelies can be used for meat steel or even integration capsules. It's so diverse. And speaking of steel, we're out of metal, but this time, I'm tired of going mining. So instead of focusing on the task at hand, let's replace parts of ourselves for fun. Yes, of course there's an implant system in NEEP Meat, but for it, we'll need more ender pearls for control unit, so it's back to my favorite dimension to do some extraction. And it's well worth it. Who wouldn't want a robot arm that ends in bleeding spikes? It'll complete any living room aesthetic. And even better, it'll rip you apart and put you back together again. Let's get some implants, baby! Our first improvement is powered knees that let us step up blocks. I could really use those in real life. Next up is a second mouth, but sentient! It'll eat food for us, it's super convenient. And how about we rip out these useless flesh sacs called lungs and replace them with extended lungs? And you know what? My AR goggles haven't let me see much, but what if one day I need to see something cool and I forget my goggles? Well, it's no problem anymore. We'll just get rid of these goofy human eyes and replace them with eyes that see all, know all, and above else come from very perceptive spiders. Who knew that the key to 20/20 vision was spiders? Oh, and the most powerful implant of them all? Cat ears, baby! Yeah! Nya. Woo. Notices you're made of meat. Pounce. Where were we? Oh, right. Or automation with the charnel pump. Yeah, okay. Well, there's actually a reason I did all this implant stuff, because there's a component of the charnel pump which requires more enlightenment than our current integrator can carry. Thankfully, we can tear apart our extra integrator egg for a divine chrysalis and just jam that thing into a cow, after getting some enchants on my armor for no particular reason. Alright, implant the cow. Implant the cow. Implant the... Oh. It's a boss fight, baby! The bovine horror awakens, and by Jove, we want its guts. It spits and claws and honestly really hurts, but we hurt it back too. And at half health, it summons the Eldritch powers from the skies above and enters phase 2. It has lasers now. And man, lasers hurt a lot. Actually, the fight gets really close. We're both backed into the water, trying to hide behind rock formations to avoid the lasers. It's low, I'm low, but mankind comes out on top. And the gift of its defeat is the advanced integrator egg. Ooh la la. This darling cluster of tumors is the key to all of our metallurgical needs, but even this beauty alone can't fully harness the secrets of the universe. We'll need to make a machine that can pull the screams of unreality into the confines of reality. A pylon! But pylons need iron, and we don't have any, so it's back to the mines. Not for long, though, as this goofy mouth keeps eating rotten flesh and spider eyes, which is doing a lot more harm than good, and I need to get them out of my inventory very quickly. Okay, back to the mines, where we find another iron motherlode and exude about 3 stacks before working our way home. And upon return, our mincer is just gone. Well, I did just update the mod at this point, so that's probably it. But, yeah. It's just gone. So I replace it. Iron goes into the ore processor, and then I realize we need more ender pearls for a control unit, so back to the nether, where I promptly smack a zombie piglin and get mauled for the rest of the day. After that fun, we're back home, and it's pylon time. Just need some meat steel and... Ah, damn it! The mouth ate the meat brick. Alright, it's time to get this thing in line. We can make a surgery table and an implant manager to operate on ourselves a bit more precisely and set some filters on this thing. And as a bonus, it'll stop swearing all the time, too. Okay, now it really is pylon time. It'll need a motor to get grooving, and once it is, our advanced integrator is just going to be oozing with secrets, screams, and sounds that we just have no language for. And wow, standing next to this pylon, it just feels like a good idea. I mean, maybe I'll even, I'll learn, maybe, wow. Huh? Right. Pump. Charnel pump. Or automation. Yes. We can now create the divine organ using our integrator's expanded capacity, and with it, we're ready to rock. Get it? Because we can make the ore thing now. Like, alright, yeah. We'll need a large open area for the pump to go in, one part because it's huge, and another, well, I mean, you'll see eventually. We're still a ways off of being ready, as this thing is a living machine, so it needs casings, controllers, ports, the whole 9 yards. It also requires more than just motor power, including integration fluid and compressed air to work. Whew. Unfortunately, I was under the impression that a portable air compressor could pump air into the machine, but alas, that is not the case. We need heavier duty gear, a whole other living machine called the large compressor. Most living machines need casing blocks. Those decide how much power they can intake before the machine starts to die, and how much self-healing the machine has to offset said dying. And the best thing that we can make is skin. It's just straight up skin. They're made from a base of meat steel machine blocks and upgraded in the PLC with blood and integration fluid. And you can see, once I power the large compressor with skin blocks attached, it's aging just as fast as it's self-repairing, which makes it immortal. Who knew my machines growing old and dying would be such a concern? That said, it's only rated for 500 joules of power, and if our motor goes above that, it'll die pretty fast. So I make a vascular source converter, which allows me to specify a specific amount of vascular power through it to control the speed of things. Now this machine will literally live forever. Alright. That's compressed air. Now for the last thorn in my side, integration fluid. And this thing uses a ton of it, so we need it very much fully automated. Blood, meat, and capsules. Meat we've got, blood we'll need a tree farm for, and capsules we need a charnel compactor automated, and all of which we could do if we weren't out of iron.
Things have changed. I managed to bridge the gap from machine to body, and I've hatched a more advanced being. I made for it a pylon so that it would learn. But I managed to learn as well. I will not describe what I saw. That was for me. But now I see there is more work to do, so much more to ponder. I don't think I was meant to get this far. But I have. And I will continue.
Well, I'll not cover the next 2 days of mining, but what I think we should talk about is the camel situation. It is getting out of hand. So I upgrade the holding chamber to hopefully combat their teleportation abilities and maybe stop them from clipping through the walls. I don't know, we're probably going to see more of them. What I'd like to see more of, though, is ore, and although we're not ready to fully automate integration fluid, I can slap a few hoppers and chests around to get us going semi-automatically. The meat will just need to pipe over, but the integration capsules and blood we can deal with via hoppers. Still, even if we power on the charnel pump, it wouldn't actually do anything. As it is, we don't have enough energy in the system for 500 joules of power being routed into this thing, and that is the absolute minimum it requires to work. So you all know what that means. More metabolizers. Well, one more metabolizer, because we're kind of broke right now. Which is enough for 420 joules. Alright, that is pretty funny, but it isn't enough. And since we can't really afford more metabolizers right now, I'll supplement them by limiting power to the ore processor and pylon, which gives us just enough juice. And remember I said there are 2 reasons to keep this thing in the open? That's because the ores are extracted via pockets of fleshy corruption bubbling up from under the earth, writhing, and full of precious metals and gemstones. Just pop a wellhead right onto it, and blammo, we're in the clear. No more iron issues. Now it's more of a waiting around issue. But we've got plenty of time, as we very much need to get integration capsules and blood automated. The pump will chew through a supply of integration fluid, so automation is very key. We'll do the hard part first, a tree farm. Typically in mods, I find that tree farms are pretty simple, but not as much here. We need ourselves another living machine, a tree vacuum. And of course, we're out of ender pearls and... okay, I'm just gonna go quartz mining to get level 30 to get looting. And this time, I better not die. And I don't! But I do get spat out in the stupid random cave that I keep ending up in. Why does the nether portal linking system still not work? It is 2025. Make them work! Alright. Well, hey, I finally got a looting enchant on my sword, and even though it's only looting 2, it's still a big boon in ender pearl collection. In fact, I vow never to leave until I have a stack, and even that doesn't take too long. No! Bad Minecraft! Bad cave! I have a stack of ender pearls. I can make all the parts that I need for a tree vacuum, so I'm happy. I would be happy if I could make all the parts for a tree farm, but I can't. See, tree vacuums only eat the trees. They don't plant them or make them grow any faster. So I'll want some deployers. Deployers like from create mod. It's all create mod. It's all cogs. It's cogs. It's cogs. It's the water wheels. Oh! No, just deployers to plant saplings and one for them to bone meal. There is no create embossing say. Of course, we still have the issue that if we add anything to the factory right now, it will dip below 500 power on the charnel pump, so we've got 3 options. Make more metabolizers, still waiting on ores. Fumble around with mechanics that I don't understand, it didn't work. Or, and what we end up going with, a pipeline of food into the power flower as a temporary energy boost that we can shut on or off. The flower isn't nearly efficient as the metabolizers though, and it chews through our food plenty fast. I really should just get more metabolizers. We're really just losing a lot of efficiency here. But if I get them, we're gonna run out of iron. Okay. I'm gonna make 8 of them. It takes some intense PLCing, but in the end, we've got 4K extra joules bouncing around the system. Whoa, that's actually a lot. Okay, I should have done that earlier. And it means our charnel pump is now way over 500 joules and is dying. And it's also out of integration fluid. Jesus. Okay, well, let's rip the motor out until we can get ourselves another machine block, as we're only 1% repair off. And seeing as we still have blood in excess, but we're out of integration capsules, we should probably automate the integration capsules first. I can get a few in hand for some quick fluid that we can turn into some more skin blocks to save our charnel pump, and now we can move the integrator over to the integration fluid processing area, rehatch it, and give it a compactor. Now we can use a long item pipeline to move raw meat bricks into the compactor to make us loads and loads of integration fluid capsules forever! In order to buffer some meat bricks for maximum efficiency, I'll route the bricks into a hopper with 4 slots filled with junk. Ignore how far the corrupt earth is spreading, by the way. That's fine, it is meant to do that. Anyways, it's tree farming time. We'll want bone meal, and we have an easy pipeline of it. The meat farm makes assorted biological solids, which we can crush down into a ton of bone meal. So we've got everything we need for the tree vacuum, except for the deployers. I forgot the deployers. They're easy to craft. Okay, what was that, though? Maybe an effect of the pylon? It's probably a good sign, all things considered. Well, as I was saying, deployers are easy to craft, and one will hold bone meal, and the other will hold saplings. And that reminds me, I forgot to make filters. After some piping around, we should have a system that routes blood bubbles into integration fluid, saplings into the deployer, and everything else, including overflow, into fire for trashing. Well, hopefully, we'll still have to test it. Because now it's motor time, baby! We need 4 of them to get this bad boy running, and once they're all hooked up, it works. The item routing is a bit funny, but in the end, everything goes where it needs to, so a win is a win. That's integration fluid automated. Once we get the solids running into the crusher for infinite bone meal, but we're going to want to hopper on top to buffer it up. And of course, because of tree growing rules in Minecraft, if I put all these blocks near the saplings, it stops the trees from growing, so I got to move the crusher, and there we go. 100% operation. We've got blood flowing. Like more than usual, more blood flowing than usual. But it seems like our raw meat situation is slowing down, so now we need the trommel to be faster, which I think we can achieve with the large trommel. It says it's more efficient. So here we go. It's another living machine. I want to dig this thing under the meat farm. I think having a big machine down there would look cool. And then I definitely don't waste the day not being able to read and continuously using the wrong ports on this thing. I wouldn't do that. So after that day of very hard work, we get the trommel going, and it doesn't seem that much faster. Oh wow, it is dying pretty fast. We definitely need machine blocks on this thing. Oh, and apparently it is a bit faster, as we're not going negative on meat production anymore. Huh. Well, we could make it even faster if we used a better motor, but for now, let's focus on keeping it alive. And after a few more blocks of skin, we've got another immortal machine. So let's see what happens if we double up on meat bricks. Ooh, that works nicely, actually. The fluid production is still a bit slow, so let's try that bigger motor. Oh, and hey, another thingy. It's called a gloam, and I can punch it. If it can bleed! Anyways, we can craft a large motor, and yeah, that is large. It can spin up to 2,000 joules instead of just 800. Wait, why is it supplying less power than the advanced motors? Oh, wait, now it's not. Okay, well, I'd like to push the trommel to above about 1,000 joules, so let's make more power! We can reduce some strain on the power network here and there, and ba-bam, 1K on the trommel. We're now making enough meat for all the bricks, food, and integration capsules. Infinite ores, infinite power, infinite food! And crazy enough, there are still so many things we can do. But alas, as I awake, the 100th sunrise of the playthrough hangs overhead, and sadly that means that our time here is over. Thanks for watching, and thank you for supporting the divine.
Flesh and metal, gems and blood, life and death at my behest. Behold the splendor of the divine and know its endless power. My work will change the world, yes, but it is not over yet. Through my hands, things beyond fathom work. My voice is theirs, my mind their brush. His voice is mine. I think I'm rather done recording these. The only ones who care to see my research are already listening.